And news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. President Trump said, as we discussed yesterday with Stephen Bucci, he is going to hit Iran where it hurts if they cross the red line and not begin, because it's already begun, but continue killing protesters, killing and imprisoning. And when they get arrested, you know what's more likely than not to happen to them. And the estimates are anywhere from 500 to closer to 3,000 people who have been murdered by the regime. You know, under the cover of the darkness they have tried to sustain, turning off the internet. We're still getting images from Starlink systems that have been smuggled in to transmit back images of the killings, the bodies, the protests, the regime opening fire on protesters. And so Trump imposed a 25% tariff on all trade with the United States. Announced any country continue to do business with Iran will face a 25% tariff on trade with the United States. So that's one thing they could do. We talked yesterday about taking the same posture with respect to Iranian dark fleets that we're taking with Russia dark fleets in and around Venezuela as part of the embargo there to prevent Iran from continuing to finance their terrorist sponsoring regime by exporting oil. Lindsey Graham was on Bardaroma. He wants to take it a little bit further, as is Lindsey Graham's wont. Lindsey Graham always ready with the bloodlust.
If I were you, Mr. President, I would kill the leadership that are killing the people. You've got to end this. If it ends well, then peace breaks out. All the state sponsor of terrorism activity stops. Hezbollah, Hamas, they go away. Israel and Saudi make peace, a new day in the Mideast. If the Ayatollah hangs on, it's a giant Obama step backward. I have faith in you, Mr. President. I have trust in you. You are the Ronald Reagan plus of our time. End this will. Right. Stand with the people, Mr. President. Let them know you're going to kill their oppressors.
Let him know you're going to kill their oppressors. I mean, obviously I have no love lost for the mullahs in Tehran, but Lindsey Graham always trying to demonstrate his virility by talking about taking out heads of state is a bit concerning. The Crown Prince in exile, Reza Pahlavi, who is the son of the last Shah, had this to say about the protests and the prospect of regime change there at the hands of the people.
I think the president said it best. He said, we'll see what happens. And I think part of the consideration is that they already know what we propose as an alternative, as a transition. Right now, the focus is on the immediate issue. I think the world is waiting to see in what way the Iranian people will see that they are not alone in this fight, and that the regime that has dared a response will probably get an answer fairly soon. And that's important to embolden a nation. Look, any campaigns of liberation has occurred at the time that the world finally took the side of those people vis-a-vis oppressive regimes. That put an end to apartheid in South Africa. It put an end to the Soviet Union and liberated countries that were stuck behind the Iron Curtain. There's precedence in history, and I think Iran should not be the exception. In fact, the game changer for the whole region is Iran, and Iranians are fighting this fight not just to liberate themselves. They know that as a result of Iran's liberation, the whole world will breathe easier, that the stability that the whole world is looking for will finally achieve. Because unlike this regime that has always hated America and its allies, the Iranian people are supportive and want to be a friend of America and the rest of the world, of course.
Well, that's a hopeful prospect. I'm not sure how much popular support Reza Pahlavi has as a potential agent of change inside of Iran were the Ayatollah to be toppled. But maybe our next guest does. KT McFarland, former first deputy national security advisor to President Trump, author of the bestseller Revolution, Trump, Washington, and We the People. KT, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure, Dan. Thank you. And you laid the arguments out very well and the options out very well.
Okay, thank you. Well, so I mean, if you want to address like Lindsey Graham to me is like, a 70-year-old in a Ferrari. I mean, it's a little bit. It always feels like a little bit of a midlife crisis when he's calling for somebody's head to be lopped off. But I mean, if that happened at the hands of the people, I wouldn't lose any sleep on it. But it's just, trying to pressure Trump into military action when he may be able to hit them where it hurts in a way that provides less exposure to the United States. That's worthy of consideration too, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just about the mullahs. I mean, we're all focused on the mullahs. They're the face of the regime. But the real power behind the throne is the IRGC, the Revolutionary Guard.
Yeah.
That's their military, but it's a lot more than their military. It's also like their defense industrial complex owned by the military. So where are they in all of this? They're not ideologues. They're not necessarily, committed to the revolution, the mullahs. But they own a lot of Iran. They own a lot of production in Iran, and they want to keep their position no matter what government takes place. And so I'm watching more what's going on with those guys. And at a certain point, and as President Trump has said, and even as the Shah's son has said, let's just see. Let's see what the Iranian people do. Are the Iranian people continuing to take to the streets? And remember, they're taking to the streets not because of a foreign policy or Iran's nuclear program. It's because of the massive economic mismanagement by the mullahs.
Inflation, right.
Inflation is through the roof. This should be a wealthy country. Something like 75% of the population is in poverty. It's a well-educated population. They should have a very different life than the ones the mullahs have given them. So at what point, if at what point, do the IRGC guys say, well, wait a minute, this government's falling apart. We don't want to go down with it. We'll blame the mullahs and then get rid of the mullahs. Whoever comes next, we just want our position protected, our position in controlling so much of the economy. So I think that's what I'm looking at. Where are the IRGC coming down on this? So it's not a matter of just get rid of a couple of mullahs and then everything is fine. It's then what happens next? How do you run the country? The thing that I was so impressed with President Trump in Venezuela was he's learned the lesson. President Bush went in and toppled the governments of Iraq and Afghanistan and fired everybody from the top guy down to the guy who was doing, the minor tax collecting in the province. So there was nobody governing these countries. And then you had an American occupation and then an American forced, quote, constitution, democratic elect. That just was chaos. That was a disaster, 25 years of forever war. And at the same time, I think President Trump has learned the failed lesson of President Obama, when in the Arab Spring, Obama happily toppled dictators from Egypt all across North Africa and the Middle East, and yet had no plan for what came next. Obama just assumed, well, we get rid of the dictator, the one guy, and then democracy, flourishes. That's not what happened either. Chaos flourished. So when President Trump is negotiating, for example, with the Venezuelan leadership, Maduro's gone. But there's a whole structure of governance that remains. And when President Trump is negotiating with him, he's saying, look, I hold all the cards now. I hold the money. I hold the oil. We want this country to be administered in a fair way. We don't want to have the continuing problems of Maduro put onto the country again in the future. So work with me. Work with me you can stay. And if you can work with me and have a good government and one that it prospers and advances the interests of the people, trade with the United States, et cetera, you can stay in power. Now, if you don't want to, if you want to do the Maduro way, fine, we'll get the next guy in line. So I think that whether it's Venezuela, whether it's Iran, whether it's Cuba, that's the negotiation happening now. It's not the Lindsey Graham, oh my gosh, let's invade with the Marines, boots on the ground, U.S. occupation. I don't think that's the President Trump way. But at the same time, he wants change.
And the IRGC piece, that was our discussion with Stephen Bucci yesterday in part, because we talked about, there was some suggestion from some, eggheads at Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, which I like. I'm saying that in a complimentary fashion, about dealing with Iranian oil tankers and the shadow fleets and taking them
Yes.
offline. But Bucci was saying more likely some strikes against IRGC training facilities and well, yeah, basically training facilities and places of particular strength.
Hmm.
And the point there ostensibly is demoralize the IRGC to turn against the regime and step aside for whatever comes next. Is that make sense to you? Would that be a possibility under consideration?
I would say so the president's getting briefed on this today and the whole range of options. And usually, and I've been in these briefings, and the president is usually offered sort of three levels. The one level would be, strong letter, scold them. That's the Biden way. Nothing happens there. And then at the other extreme is maybe the Lindsey Graham way of having, really serious military action. And there's a middle way. And a lot of the middle way involves economic pressure. It involves diplomatic pressure. It involves working with some of the people there who might be might not be people you like, but who could be of use to the United States. I mean, before kinetic action, which is what the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies guys was talking about, there's a lot of other stuff to do. I mean, for example, and you mentioned the Shadow Fleet, the Ghost Fleet, there are about 1,000 ships. They're illegal. They're not registered under any one nation, and they're ferrying around from Venezuela, from Iran, from Russia, illicit oil, sanctioned oil that's not supposed to be sold, not supposed to be traded. And these ships it's probably 15-20% of the world's oil supply. So one way of dealing with the income that's coming to Iran, coming from the revenue from these shadow fleets, is to seize the shadow fleet, which the Trump administration has already seized, 5 of them. And so, 1,000 minus 5, 995 to go. But taking those ships out of operation means that you're squeezing economically the lifeblood of a country like Iran or Venezuela or Russia. That would take longer to squeeze them economically, but it might have just as devastating effect. Iran is not producing anything the world is buying other than oil.
Gerard Baker, writing in the Wall Street Journal, asked a good question. Given what we know, what's being reported, some of the images that are being transmitted back to the West from Iran, as many as 3,000 Iranians killed, thousands more arrested. This is a totalitarian, repressive regime. Where are the protests in the West? Where are all those defenders of persecuted Muslims that have been so active in big city America the past 2 years? Where are they? I saw a lot of posting on X over the weekend about against the pro-Hamas rally that was held outside a synagogue in New York from these leftists, which is interesting, and very little comment or NGO infrastructure being deployed on behalf of the Iranian people protesting for their freedom.
So the odd thing about the Iranian protests is they happen every 8 or 10 years, and the Iranian people take to the street, often over economic issues. And what's the reaction from the West? They're pro-democracy, they're anti-Mullah, and in the Obama administration, for example, the protests were over a stolen election, and the Iranian people took to the street. And what did President Obama do? Well, he sided with the mullahs. He sent them cash. He stopped enforcing sanctions. So he sided with the bad guys. Fast forward, President Biden is in office. More demonstrations break out. And what happens? President Biden, he sides with the mullahs too. He sides with the bad guys. He doesn't side with the pro-democracy demonstrators in the street. President Trump has set this up to say, I'm siding with the pro-democracy demonstrators in the street, not the mullahs. So where is the West? Where are the people who are so outraged about Israel, who are so outraged about President Trump and outraged about ICE raids? I guess they really are okay with the mullahs because they have not taken to the streets and demonstrated against the mullahs. And it leads you to conclude that at the bottom of all of their objectives, or sort of what's at the beating heart of these Western anti-everything demonstrators, is they just hate Donald Trump. And if Donald Trump is taking decisive action, They hate the decisive action. I mean, to the point where they're like cheering for Maduro. They're cheering for
Yes.
the narco traffickers.
Yeah. And also, too, the D.C. press corps trotting out people like animatronic Anthony Blinken to offer this criticism of Trump. On the one hand, he's going to create World War III. He's reckless. On the other hand, he's an isolationist, and now he's being accused of being myopic, only looking at the Western Hemisphere when there are all these hotspots the world over, except that's not even true. This is what Anthony Blinken said.
But what I'm more worried about is the larger story that seems to be telling, which is that we've gone from, in effect, being the leader of the Western world to being the hegemon in the Western Hemisphere. And we're pulling back. We're actually retreating when it comes to China, when it comes to Russia, when it comes to dealing with the challenges that they pose. And as you know, and there's been a lot of discussion about this, the president, the administration is focused on this spheres of influence strategy, where the big guys, and I mean guys, in each of their respective areas get to do what they want in those areas. The Russians, the Chinese, the United States. The strong do what they want, the weak suffer what they must.
I mean, just setting aside his concern about Russia and China, getting a female dictator instead of a male one for some reason. That's just not. That's the same day he said that. The same day he just imposed a 25% tariff on anybody who does business with Iran.
Yeah, look, Anthony Blinken has never been right on anything in his entire long career. Every single issue he's been wrong. He sounds good, and he scolds well, but he's never been right. And to talk about soft on China, soft on Russia, ignoring China, ignoring Russia. I mean, the whole point of this exercise of the Western Hemisphere, trying to unite the Western Hemisphere, reimposing the Monroe Doctrine, is because China and Russia and Iran and Hezbollah were making inroads into our own hemisphere, south of our border. And so somehow scooting these guys out and sort of hounding them back to their own neighborhoods somehow is a bad thing. Again, I just don't take Anthony Blinken seriously. I haven't taken him seriously in 20 years, and when he pops up every now and then, you realize why you don't take him seriously.
Yeah, no time to start now. The matter of Greenland. Trump, again, mau-mauing the Danes, talking about the defense they're providing for Greenland. It's not robust, to say the least.
I haven't done that, but Greenland should make the deal, because Greenland does not want to see Russia or China take over. They don't go there. It's very far away from Greenland. And Greenland, basically, their defense is 2 dog sleds. Do you know that? You know what their defense is? 2 dog sleds.
2 dog sleds is not going to be enough to repel the Chinese and the Russians, Trump fears, KT. But there was a report in the Daily Mail that he has asked the Joint Special Operations Command to prepare an invasion plan that's being resisted by the Joint Chiefs of Staff on the grounds it would be illegal. That's the Daily Mail reporting. What is your handle on Greenland? What would your advice and counsel be to the president?
Greenland, it's essential that for a couple of things. We don't want Greenland in the hands of the Chinese and the Russians, and that's the direction it is going in now. And so the United States has to, President Trump said, we got to have Greenland. Now, if you take a map or take the globe and sort of tip it on its side, and having the Arctic be the primary area you're looking out from, you realize Greenland is essential. It's essential for the defense of North America. It is essential as a maritime trade route. As the Arctic is melting, we're going to have more and more ships go over the Arctic from Asia to the West. And so it's essential that we control it, because if we don't control it, the Russians or the Chinese are going to control it. And how would you achieve that? Well, President Trump, he's got to have a lot of military options given to him. That's fair. You should always have military options. They should always be on the shelf, whether you're going to grab for them or not. But as President Trump and Marco Rubio said, look, we'll buy it. The United States has been trying to buy Greenland since Abraham Lincoln. And I think at this point, it's just the price. There are 57,000 Greenlanders, and they can have a referendum to say, we want to reaffiliate with somebody. We're affiliated with Denmark now. We've never been really happy about that. We don't have any jobs. We're not having any economic development in Greenland, so maybe we reaffiliate with America. And what I've said is 57,000 people. What if you offered every man, woman, and child in Greenland, pick a number, 100,000, I'd offer them $1 million each and say, wouldn't you like to affiliate with the United States, become our 51st state, or maybe not, just affiliate with us and let the United States build out on the military bases that we have there, have the United States build out on the rare earth minerals and the economic development, give Greenlanders jobs. It'll be great for Greenlanders. It'll be terrific for the NATO alliance. It'll be great for the security of the Western Hemisphere. So to me, I don't think that this is going to be a hard one. I think it's just a matter of cost and price.
Yeah, I mean, Seward's Folly was $7 million. That turned out to be a pretty good deal. Maybe Rubo's Folly will provide a similar return on investment. Makes strategic sense, as you were describing, for sure. KT McFarland, former First Deputy National Security Advisor to President Trump, author of Revolution, Trump, Washington, and We the People. KT, thank you as always for your insights. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dan. It's a terrific conversation always. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Listen, I'm going to be straight with you. Pain doesn't just hurt your body, it cripples your life. I know this because I've seen it with people I care about. If joint pain is holding you back, start the new year by doing something different. There's a way to get real relief without surgery and without putting your life on pause. But you have to take that first step and contact my friends at QC Kinetics. They provide regenerative treatments that help your body repair the areas that are causing pain. I've talked to people who've been through this. These are real results. Achy knees, hips, shoulders, wherever it hurts, instead of facing surgery that sidelines you for months, QC Kinetics treatments happen in the office. Simple procedures that deliver big, life-changing results. January is supposed to be your clean slate month, so make it one. Stop managing the pain and start solving it. Call now to learn more and tell them Dan Proft, that's me, sent you when you do. The number 312-827-6261. That's 312-827.